All right, MrFlavorsmith here, and today we're gonna be doing a hickory smoked spare rib. We're gonna be doing a standard spare rib cut and then a St. Louis spare rib cut. I cut the ribs in half. So instead of a full rack, it's half rack of ribs. That way I can hang them better on our smoke chamber, which I'm gonna install in just a few minutes. But we have the meat half rack cuts in Ziploc bags, marinating in maraschino cherry juice right now. And then we're gonna apply this cherry cola rub to the ribs just before I put them on the smoker. And what we're gonna use for our heat source today is a lump coal, and then we're gonna use some hickory chunks sitting on the top to give us that hickory smoke flavor that we really want, that's delicious with just about anything. We're gonna try and cook these a little bit hotter than normal because I like to cook these as fast as I can. I've done this before. When I say really hot, we're gonna be in that 300, maybe 350 range for a little bit of time. So we're gonna have water inside the smoke chamber, right where the coal is at. That way it's emitting a ton of moisture with inside the entire chamber, and it's gonna prevent the ribs from drying out. So we can go a little bit hotter with this and cook it a little bit faster. That's my goal today, about 2.5 hours to maybe 3 hours in the smoke chamber. And then once the ribs are done inside the smoke chamber, then we're gonna take them off. We're gonna put them in Ziploc bags and we're gonna put them in the fridge. That way they get nice and cool really quick. I find that when you chill the ribs after that, then the flavors completely change inside that rib, and it kind of like locks all the flavors together. And then once the ribs are cooled, we're then gonna pull them out and we're gonna put a maraschino cherry sweet hickory barbecue glaze on top of them. And then we're gonna stick them in the oven for about 15 minutes at like 325 degrees just to lock in all that flavor and uniting all that flavor as one to make these ribs absolutely delicious. I'm telling you, it will drive you nuts. And all of your family and friends are gonna love these ribs on your next barbecue. So if you wanna learn how to do this, stay with me and I'll show you how to do it from start to finish. Okay, so first thing first, let's start converting this over. All right, we're gonna take our hood off first, and we're gonna remove our grill. And then for our heat basket, what we're gonna use is we're gonna use a vortex, but we're actually gonna use this upside down, just like this. And then inside, we're gonna install the water trough. And then we're gonna fill this up completely full with water in here. And all of our lump coal is gonna be around in these areas right here on either side of the water. And then what happens is when this heats up, it heats up the water and it starts steaming, and it just really puts a ton of moisture within inside the chamber, helping prevent the ribs from drying out and also opening up the tissue fibers and stuff to allow the smoke molecules to actually penetrate into those ribs nice and deep and as quick as possible. This is what allows us to cook these ribs really hot and fast. That way we don't have to be out here for 6 hours today. Then the next thing we're gonna use is actually this rotisserie in pizza conversion made by Only Fire. And I use this to extend our whole rack of ribs higher away from the heat source right here. Yet again, this prevents the ribs from drying out. Then we're gonna put the grill back on top. All right, then on top of the Only Fire rotisserie chamber, we're going to put our Only Fire smoking chamber. And now this acts more like a barrel smoker. And then we're gonna be able to hang the ribs from this rack area right here. And we can put a lot of ribs in here. And what we're using the grill grate for is just to prevent anything from falling down into the fire. Because sometimes that happens. Once these ribs get cooked, they get juicy and they loosen up a little bit, and sometimes they come off the hooks. So this helps prevent that. But what this really does is this is extending our ribs away from the heat source. That way the smoke is all up in here and we don't dry those ribs out. And we're able to access the front. And if we need to, we can pull this out right here and add more water in there. Or if need to, we close this back up and we can actually access the water chamber from right here as well, or add any additional coals if need be. I like this system. I like the Only Fire products. It works really good. And then on top of that, once we're ready, we just put our Weber hood back on top, and we're able to adjust our heat levels through our top vent and our bottom vent. All right, now you've seen the system and you've seen how easy it is to transform this from a standard 22-inch Weber kettle grill to this amazing barrel smoking system. It's very easy to do. The Only Fire smoking chamber, you can get on Amazon. I think I paid something like $180 for it. The rotisserie chamber below, I think that was around $80, and that was on Amazon. So it's super easy to do. This is truly the transformer of the barbecue systems out there, and I love using it. Also, this cart is not the standard cart that you would see with like a higher-end Weber grill. This is also an aftermarket cart that I also purchased from Amazon. It was only like 180 bucks. Took me about an hour to put together, and I've got this amazing cart, grilling, smoking, rotisserie. It does anything I want it to do system. All right, so now you've seen the gear that we're working with today. So I'm gonna strip this back down, and then we're gonna go grab the ribs. We're gonna put the racks on them, and then we're gonna rub them down really good with that awesome cherry cola rub. And then we're gonna get the coal going and get these things smoking right away. Okay, everybody, so our coal has come to temperature. It is all nice and a little gray dusting over the top of it means that it is ready to go in there. It has been just about 18 minutes. So now we are going to put our grilling gloves on for safety. This gets hot and we're gonna empty our chimney into our briquette basket. We're try and put half on one side and half on the other side as best as we can. Then I'm just gonna take this and move it around a little bit. We're gonna try and evenly distribute the hot ones. And then I'm actually gonna put some fresh ones over the top of these. I kind of feel it's gonna need it. There we go. Now we're gonna open up our bottom vent all the way. That way we've got good airflow. Now it's time to get our wood chips on. Just top this water off. It's already starting to get warm in there, I can see. And the hot coals on the bottom are gonna heat up all these cool coals up top. And so it's gonna work perfectly. It's gonna kind of time it out just right. Now let's get our Only Fire rotisserie extension on the grill grate. We have that just sitting right on top of that. And that's just to protect us, to ensure that if ribs do fall down, they just fall onto this and they don't fall into our coals. Now let's get our Only Fire smoke chamber installed on top of our rotisserie chamber. And just make sure it's all sitting nice and level. And we have the placement where we want it, which is probably gonna be right there. That way the door opens up. It's smoking, doing its thing. Now let's get our hooks on our slabs of beef. All right, as you saw, I put that rub on there, nice and thick as I could, and I went through the entire bottle of that rub. So now we're gonna put the hooks on, and we're gonna double hook on one side. So we're gonna try and find the ribs, and we're gonna go through the first piece of tissue, and we are going to, so we're gonna stick it right in there. This is kind of hard to do sometimes, but we're gonna get it done. And then we're going to put another hook over here on this side, going all the way through. Okay, and we should be good on that one actually. So if you can see that, we're just gonna repeat that process. And then we're gonna stick them on in, hook and stick. Try and find the bone, go right where the tissue's at, and hang. Also, by cutting them in half, it puts less weight on these hooks. So when these start to get tender, hopefully they won't be pulling apart. Make sure you try and puncture all the way through to the other side if it all can. If you can see that, but I'm just right through to the other side right there. And then hang. And there is 2 levels to this. So I am hanging the bottom level first, and I hang a few, and I can spin the rack around. I'm only gonna be able to do that for a little bit longer, as these things are gonna get hot. And so like I said, these are all spare ribs, but there's two different cuts on here. There's like your classic spare rib that's got that spare extra piece of meat on the edges. And then you've got your St. Louis style cut, which is really just all the meat's cut down to the edges of the bones. And it's close to the same cut of meat. One is closer to the belly, and that is gonna be your St. Louis cut. It's closer to the belly of the pig, and it has a little more fat content because of that. And then the spare ribs, they're more towards the spine on the rib cage, but they actually have more meat to them. So they're really tasty. I tell you what, these things look packed full of flavor already, and they are just getting on here. Just want to point out, you don't want to have the rub on for too long, because what happens is the salt in the rub ends up pulling a lot of the moisture out. So you want to just have them rubbed for maybe a maximum of a half hour, and that would be a maximum. But then you want to get them on the grill as quick as you can. Maybe we can move some of these around a little bit. We're down to our last two now. Okay, I can move some of these around now, freeing up some space. And you want to try and space them out. That way the smoke travels all the way around these things. And if you can hang any in the middle, try to hang them in the middle, getting them away from the edges as best as you can. Reason for that is the edges will retain a little more heat and sometimes cause some hot spots. All right, let's close our door. Okay, let's put our lid on. And we are officially now smoking the ribs. Sweet dreams. All right, everybody, we just got everything on, the lid closed, and we are set. It's 11:45, so we're gonna check back with this in about an hour's time to see if we have to refill that water in that trough in our lump coal basket. Also, since I said I wanted to do this at a hot temperature, we have our bottom vent on the bottom of the kettle opened all the way, and we have our top vent open all the way. Let's check out the temperature right now. Okay, so we've got a lot of smoke coming out, doing pretty good. It's gonna get a little smokier here in a little bit, but our temperature, we're sitting right now at about 200. And so it should raise up to about 300 pretty soon here. I'll keep my eye on it and see how it does. But there we go, we are smoking right now. All right, so I was really debating if I should put this in here or not, but seeing as how I named this rib recipe that I do, Sweet Dreams, and we were doing this today, I figured I might as well just share it with you. Something kind of very odd happened to me last night. Actually, very early this morning. I was abruptly woken up with a dream, and the dream was of my father. And my father died just as COVID started in 2020, and February 19th, 2020. And it could have been from COVID relations. We're not really sure, but he was a really unhealthy guy anyway. But he had a huge passion for barbecue. And I helped build a 26-foot barbecue trailer with him. Took us about 7 years to do. It never fully got completed. And he didn't get to use it, and he never got to see it mature and finished. And anyway, the dream was a really weird dream. I was flying around in this mountain scenic area. My wife was down below me, about 20 feet below me, and I come up to this like little lake area where there's some rocks, and I kind of landed and just grabbed right onto the rocks, and I just looked over this lake, and then I looked to my right, and then my dad just appeared right to the right. And he just didn't say anything. He just had a very big smile on his face. He looked thinner, he looked younger, he looked healthy, and he was just super, super happy. And so it made me wake up with some tears. And I started my morning, and I'm like, I've got to do this video today. And so here it is. I mean, what better sweet dream ribs? And I had like the sweetest dream of my dad this morning. So I didn't know if I should share this with you, and I might not put it in the video. And I can't explain these events that happened, but I know that my dad is there with me throughout. this barbecue adventure I'm doing, which is really something I'm doing for my kids. I have two young boys, and I want them to be able to see me for the rest of their lives after I'm far and gone. So sweet dreams, everybody. Okay, so we're at about a half hour into our smoke cook right now, and we're sitting at about 210 degrees Fahrenheit within the smoke chamber. It's not exactly where I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a little bit higher than that, but that's okay. You know, things just happen when you're barbecuing and you're smoking. Like, I've done this before, but maybe this lump coal just burns lower in temperature than the lump coal that I'm used to using. But I tell you what, the aroma that it's giving off is a very, very awesome hickory. More than other times I've done it with, like, let's say royal oak lump coal and the hickory clumps on top of it. Like, this is a real hickory flavor to it for sure. So it's gonna taste absolutely awesome and be packed full of flavor, no doubt about it. Okay, you might be questioning, hey, so when do we know though when these are gonna be done? Well, normally I'd say it takes about 2.5, 3 hours to do it. We're usually pretty safe at that, but it's not getting to the temperature that I'm used to. So what we need to do, and we should always do this anyway, you can stick it with a toothpick or a temperature probe like this one, and that's what I'm gonna be doing for tenderness. And if it's really tender and it goes inside in between the ribs real easy and pulls out real easy, you know you're done. Also, I'm shooting for a temperature around 190 degrees Fahrenheit. Because there's not a lot of meat between the ribs, and the ribs actually cook the meat as well, it's not always accurate by going off of a meat probe like this for ribs, but I still do it anyway. And so what I'm after is around 190 degrees Fahrenheit. If I get 190 degrees Fahrenheit on the majority of these ribs, then I know I'm able to pull them off. Then we'll go through the cooling process, and then we'll be able to heat them back up, and they're not gonna be dry. If you've gotten any value out of this video, please do me a huge favor, like it and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me produce more flavorful content like this for you in the future. Really appreciate it. All right, everybody, we're an hour into the cook now, and you can see it is really smoking. And we've also increased our temperature. So now we're at that 250 Fahrenheit range, and we're sustaining it. And remember, all of our vents are open. So our bottom vent's open fully, and our top vent is open fully. So we're right there. Now, let's check out what they look like at an hour into this. All right, here we go. Wow, those look amazing. Those look really good. They're nice and moist still. They look delicious. Okay, let's seal everything back up. All right, I'm gonna try and do something a little interesting. I'm gonna take this device, which is used for watering your Christmas tree, and I'm gonna put it in our little water trough, and I'm gonna put some water in there. Let's see if that works out. Works like a charm. I just need to open up the chamber completely. That way I can see, get some light in there. We've got water back in there. Let's put this cover back on. And our water chamber is back to being full. I'm super excited that this worked out like that. All right, we're at our 2-hour mark right now. So we're gonna pull the lid off. We're gonna poke these things with a toothpick to check them for tenderness. And if it goes in and goes out pretty easy, then we know we're really close, if not there. And then we're also gonna probe it for internal temperature as best as we can, trying to get somewhere around that 190, but let's do that. Oh my goodness. Those things look amazing. They look like they're super full of flavor. Oh my, that goes in and comes out really smooth. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are there. These are smoked to perfection. You get an internal temperature and see if we can get something. 191, 193. These are ready to pull. Let's pull them off and let them cool down. First things first, I like to put these gloves on to allow me to handle everything without burning myself. So these white gloves prevent the heat from getting to my hands, and these blue nitrite gloves are super durable, and they work really well when it comes to heat and grabbing things. So just put those on real quick. That way it keeps my hands nice and safe, because I'm going to be touching the metal hooks, I'm going to be touching the metal parts that I hung these on. So I just want to be nice and safe, and this just allows me to really handle everything very well. Oh yeah, look at those. These look amazing, packed full of smoke flavor. These are gonna be delicious. Once that sauce is applied to it, oh my gosh. Whew, that one's hung up. That was a meaty one. My gosh, these things look amazing. Okay, everybody, so part one to this cook is over. 2 hours. At 2 hours, these things got to temperature and were completely done. I'm amazed by that. Last time it took 2.5 hours. So it did actually come up to temp to where we needed it to be. It didn't get above 300 degrees actually though. So it was really peculiar to me, but it worked out, totally worked out. So what I did is I just took the ribs inside, I put them in like Ziploc 2-gallon bags, and I split up the ribs in between 3 different bags. And so now all that moisture is in there with them, kind of rehydrating them from the areas that might have gotten dried out a little bit. And so now, once they lowered their temperature down to about room temperature, I'm gonna stick them in the fridge for a couple of hours, get them completely cooled off. Then I'm gonna bring them back out. I'm gonna set them on the counter for maybe another half hour or so, bring them up to room temperature. And then I'm going to glaze them with this sweet Maraschino Cherry Hickory Barbecue glaze. So I'm gonna go inside and I'm gonna whip up that glaze right now. All right, here are the ribs in the Ziploc bags. I just put them in there just a few minutes ago. What this does is this helps rehydrate some of the dried spots, if there was any dried spots, just putting more moisture back into the dried spots, or maybe some of the more burnt spots that are on there. Once it cools down to room temperature, I'm gonna stick them in the fridge for a little bit, probably about an hour or two. Then I'm gonna pull them back out, let them kind of warm up a little bit to room temperature again, and then we're gonna put the sauce on, and then I'm gonna stick them in the oven. And this is what we're going to use for the saucepan right here. And then we are just going to take this maraschino cherry juice, the entire jar, we're going to put in there, along with this Sweet Baby Ray's sweet and smoky barbecue sauce. Stick it in here, blend it all up, and get it going. So let's get saucy. Okay, the ribs have been sitting in the fridge for a couple hours now, so let's go pull them out of the fridge, get them back in the kitchen, pull them out of the bags, and let them get to room temperature. And then we're gonna apply that glaze on there, get that oven heated up, and stick them in there for about 15 minutes at about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we'll be ready to pull them out and give them a taste. Everybody, time's come. The ribs are done, and these look amazing. Packed full of flavor. They are super smoky. In the house, just as I was putting the sauce on and stuff, everybody in the house was like, wow, what is that? That's amazing. It's just tons of smoke. Absolutely packed full of flavor, I know. Let's bite into one right now. I'm gonna take a big old giant spare rib. Look at this bad boy. Oh yeah, I'm going for it. Oh my gosh, that is so good. It is so packed full of smoky sweetness. Oh, it's just so much flavor. I tell you what, it was a lot of work to do this, but it is absolutely worth it. You're gonna have to try this without a doubt. I hope you enjoyed everything today, and until next time, live a life of flavor.